Welcome to Beyond the Blacktop podcast, where we dive into all things OHV. I'm Kevin Schmidt. Here with me, as always, is Paul Hart. How you doing today, Paul?
Happy to be here, as always.
All right. Today, we're going to be talking about upcoming events, where we are with the Red Sticker program / that new competition sticker that some of you might have been hearing about, as well as we will be speaking with the director of the Sierra Buttes Trails Stewardship, Greg Williams. But before we get to all that, we are going to be dishing on the dirt with some OHV news. To start with, I say we just dive right in, get to what's going on with Red Sticker / this competition sticker, because they kind of go hand in hand, right?
They do, yep.
For anyone who doesn't know, there is a new form of OHV registration, essentially for motorcycles only, right?
Motorcycles and those race quads. But
And race quads,
Yep.
yeah. They're fewer and far between. Essentially, anything that is red / green sticker, this new sticker comes into play. And that is SB 708 competition sticker. It is called a Sanctioned Event permit, and it is a special permit issued by the Department of Parks and Recreation to operate certain off-highway motor vehicles at sanctioned events. A sanctioned event is an event approved by an agency within its guidelines for off-highway vehicle competition or racing events. Public land management agencies will make the ultimate decision on whether a sanctioned racing event or event permit is required during competitions and sanctioned events held on the public lands they manage.
makes sense to me so far, but I'm sure people are going to have questions, and that's what we're here to answer.
Let's just talk about why this bill was passed, SB 708. If you hear anyone talking about SB 708, they're talking about this new form of registration, the competition sticker, or the sanctioned event permit. It's all the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why this bill was written and passed, largely in part, I believe, due to AMA and Don Amador District 36. They did a lot of work on this. But it was to help fill a gap that currently existed in OHV law that would have made pretty much every single competition motorcycle in California completely illegal, meaning that no pro races, no amateur races, really any kind of event / competition of any kind could happen on public lands in California. And there are some pretty major races, especially as far as the AMA is concerned, I believe, that happen on public lands in California, if I'm not mistaken.
The Hangtown National comes to mind.
Yeah, that's one of them. And that one's like directly affected with state parks with what we do because it's in one of our state vehicular recreation areas out of Prairie City. So it's essentially to help fill a gap there. What the gap was is that you have all the stuff that's been going on with the red sticker, right? It's the like, is it gone? Is it not gone? It should be gone at this point for any bike that is the 2022 or newer and has a 3 or a C in the 8th digit of your VIN, which I know is really convoluted, but essentially that means your bike would have been registered with a red sticker instead of a green sticker. But if it's 2022 or newer, you're not supposed to be able to get a red sticker anymore.
Even though we know people have been getting those.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Even though we know people have been getting those. And we'll talk about that a little bit further in just a minute because that's been confusing as well.
Mm-hmm.
But essentially, if it's 2022 or newer, has a 3 or a C in that 8th digit, then if you were trying to go race your bike at a sanctioned race and, you have a competition level bike, you would not have been able to race it at some of these events. So things like, pro motocross, pro supercross, even the amateur races that happen on public lands all the time wouldn't have been able to happen.
All those District 36, District 37, and 38, all those enduros and hare scrambles that are on public lands, it definitely would affect that, yeah.
Yeah. So this sticker is solely for that group of people. It's for people who are California residents. If you're from out of state, you don't need it. If you are already riding a green sticker bike, you don't need it. If you're riding a dual sport, like I know some people do, I believe you do, Paul,
Yep.
Don't need it. It's only for people who have that 2022 or newer and would have been a red sticker bike.
Yeah.
And you're competing at an event on public lands. If it's on private land, you don't need the sticker.
Yeah, the private tracks, like a lot of the motocross tracks come to mind. A lot of those are private. Go race.
Yep.
Yeah.
You don't need the competition sticker for that. So it's a very like kind of niche thing, but there was this hole in the law that would have made certain events not possible. We didn't want that to happen. When does this all take effect? This bill starts January 1st of this coming year, 2026. So January 1st onward, you're going to need to have this sticker to be riding a competition bike at a sanctioned event on public lands in California. Starting at that day, you will be able to buy the event permit online from OHV, and you can buy them from, I believe the AMA is going to try and sell them at all of their sanctioned events. So there'll be a vendor there. So like, say you don't know whether or not you're going to compete until the last minute, and then you show up at the race, and then you're like, oh, I don't have this sticker. What do I do? You can get it from them. We haven't set a date that they're going to go for sale. I have heard maybe end of November, beginning of December, right around the same time that the non-resident permits usually go on sale. We do have renders of what they're going to look like. I believe they were shown at our most recent commission meeting, and I can go back and throw that up on the YouTube page for everyone to be able to see in the video what that sticker is going to look like. What does this mean for all the red stickers out there that currently exist? Because we know that some people were able to get their bikes, those 2022 and newer bikes registered. And for those of you who were able to register your 2022 and newer bike, you can keep riding, and you can ride year round until that registration expires, essentially. But we are going to view that as you paid your registration, you did what you were supposed to do, go out, go ride, go enjoy it. But when it comes around for renewal, don't expect that you're going to necessarily get approved to get a renewal sticker for the following year.
Yeah, and something else to just the 22 and older bikes, 21, those are grandfathered in to ride year round. That hasn't changed. So that's whenever this was all coming about, people got really excited, and all they heard was, we can ride our red sticker bikes year round. It's still kind of true as long as it's 22 and older.
No, 21 and older.
Sorry, 21 and older.
Yeah. And year-round riding is very nice. I talked to a lot of people. I was down at Sand Sports Super Show this weekend, and I was talking to a lot of people down there who ride the dunes, and there's a lot of people who bought 21-year bikes specifically for this reason, because they didn't want to be restricted to a specific riding season outside of like the weather, which down at Glamis is your riding season.
Exactly, yeah.
So if you have 21 and older, you're good to go. It essentially acts like a green sticker. So you might still be getting your red sticker for a while on your bike, but just know that it's going to act like a green sticker. You can ride year round on public lands in California. You don't have to worry about any kind of riding season anymore. There's no like from, October to April or whatever it was at all these different places. Because it also changed depending on like the place that you were going to go ride, which was also confusing.
Yeah, it was definitely confusing. And the way I used to explain it to people was like, kind of north of Highway 50, there wasn't a red sticker season, but south of it, there was. And like, that wasn't even 100% accurate anyway, but that's all changed. So
yeah,
more access in a way for a lot of riders, which is great.
Definitely a lot more access. Definitely a change, and it's going to take some time, I think, for people to adjust to it. There's always positives and negatives to everything that happens, but I think for the most part, for the larger riding populace out there, it's kind of a positive with the no longer having to worry about a specific riding season.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
I know that you are affected by this sticker, Paul, because you go and ride yourself all the time. You're competing at events all the time. Do you have any questions that like might that come to mind that might be relevant to anyone who might be listening?
I mean, not off the top of my head. I guess some questions that we will probably start hearing would be, I have my dual sport bike. I'm going to come race at this sanctioned event. Do I need a competition sticker?
No, you wouldn't in that case.
I have a green sticker motorcycle. I'm going to come race at this competition. Do I need one?
You would not, no.
Yeah. So it's really those new I call them race bikes, but
Yeah.
it's your competitions bikes. It's like the KTM XCs or any of the motocross bikes, your YZs, your CRFs, the stuff you see on TV, like on Pro Motocross. Those are the competition bikes that we're referring to.
And I want to stress this again. This is, again, for residents of California. If you are a non-resident, you would just need to buy a non-res sticker. So if you're coming from Arizona, if you're coming from Nevada, if you're coming down from Oregon, any of these other places, actually, I think we have reciprocity with Oregon, I believe.
We do have on a few, yeah.
But Arizona specifically, I know is a really big one that we don't have reciprocity with. If you're coming from one of those states that we don't have reciprocity with, grab a non-res, you'll still be able to race on your comp bike. You don't need to get the competition sticker.
And that's important to bring up, Kevin, because people do race from all the surrounding states in California, and we go outward too and race in other states. I know I do. But it's awesome that there is the competition sticker that will allow these race bikes. And the race bikes are important because a lot of times they have different power, they have better suspension, they have different frame geometry, the front end may be more raked out. So the work that was completed to make sure that this happened is very important. I'm glad that it did happen, because otherwise you're trying to modify a bike with suspension upgrades, and a lot of times the race bikes are good to go out the box to go racing. That's what they're designed for. Yeah.
If you need any more information on this topic, please visit our website or go check out some of our social media posts. We've got a couple of social media posts already, just kind of informing people that this is happening. But coming up here, we're going to be posting kind of like a flow chart of what registration do I need. I think Paul actually saw that graphic earlier today.
I did. It was good once I was like, I actually have to read.
Yeah.
Which is, it can be hard for us motorcyclists sometimes to want to read stuff. But yeah, it was good.
But if you go, it'll be a flow chart that helps connect you to what registration you need in California, which again, I know at this point can be definitely confusing. And then also we're going to be posting videos on how to purchase the sticker, where to be placing it on your bike, which, by the way, is the same place you would place any other registration on your bike, right there on the front fork. So
that hasn't changed. That's easy.
Yeah, that one's easy. We've got that one on lock. Yeah, so just go ahead and if you follow us on social media, you'll be seeing more information coming out about this. We'll be posting frequently asked questions here soon, kind of as they start coming in, and we know what we're needing to answer, things like that. So just stay tuned. A little bit of patience also, as this is brand new for all of us in this office as well, and we are also kind of grappling with what this all means as well. We can move on to our winter events with Paul. I know
I did some racing back in July in my hometown where I grew up in the Midwest, a little town of Cravat, Illinois, population about 40. My buddy Tim bought some property and was able to host the inaugural Groves Road Ranch race. It was a hare scramble, and we had Southern Illinois GP Series and Southern Indiana GP Series both raced there, so we had some stacked competition. I raced A class. I got third in class, even though I was dead last off the line. I'm a little rusty on the dead engine starts from coming from desert racing. It was about typical Midwest weather in July, about 98 degrees and 98% humidity. So I was about to die on the starting line. Luckily, the last 2 laps of the race, it came the most torrential downpour, and I was like, oh, finally I can cool down. It was a great race. Next thing up I'm doing a 24-hour race end of October. It's the 24-hour Starvation Ridge. It's actually in Washington. This race has been going on for about 20 years, and it's a motorcycle-only event, which is cool because a lot of the endurance races I've done, like the Baja 1000 and Ironman, you're competing with trucks, side-by-sides, quads, and the course is pretty beat up and a little different than just a motorcycle-only event. And finally, since I talked about the International 6-Day Enduro on our last episode, quite a few of my friends are going to represent. This year was the very first year that all members of Team USA actually finished the event. And additionally, the women's team, they mopped up the competition. They won the World Trophy again. And additionally, Brandy Richards, she took the overall win for a women's class. So the women really kicked some butt this year, which is super cool to see. They've been really good lately. And the men's team did great as well. But congrats to all of them. And that's all I have for events.
Yeah, huge congrats to them. That's definitely not an easy feat to do. And love to hear it. Awesome news. All right, we are moving on to our main story now, which is speaking with Greg Williams, who is the director of the Sierra Buttes Trails Stewardship. Greg, how you doing today?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
Of course, of course. Thank you for being on the podcast. I greatly appreciate it. I have a couple of questions for you today because I think that your project is something that not a lot of people up and down the whole state know about, but really should know about.
Absolutely.
So, first of all, what is it that you do with the Sierra Buttes Trail Stewardship, and what is the Lost Sierra describing, I guess, or what is it?
Yeah, well, I'm responsible for about 40 plus employees, and we run anything from trail programs to world-class events in communities. We have a mountain bike guide outfitter service in Quincy. And the Lost Sierra is a region that's kind of a forgotten, disinvested place. I would say like north of Highway 80, north of Truckee. And it's an area that has the largest watershed in California, the Feather River watershed. It has incredible mountain peaks. And we're fortunate enough that it has some of the best single track in the world, mostly because of the mining days, and then just a long heritage of people going from town to town. Yeah, recreation is kind of key up here.
I love hearing that. I think Paul was also instrumental in a few of those trails, some of that single track going in back in his Forest Service days.
Yeah, we built some trails together, and I concur that some of the best riding around. I've ridden all over the state and in different countries, and boy, it's hard to beat some single track in the Lost Sierra. So I gotta agree with Greg on that one.
Yeah, and I gotta admit, I actually was born in Truckee and raised up there, and we spent many family vacations driving up 89 and up into Gray Eagle and Susanville and Sierraville, like all those places up there. Spent a lot of time up there, and it is some beautiful, beautiful country that not a lot of people are getting into.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a big empty zone, which is beautiful.
It's
and mostly all Forest Service land. You know, like we're over 70% national forest, so these communities really rely on partnerships with the national forest and have historically focused on resource extraction. You know, mining was really big in the day, and then logging.
Mm-hmm.
So we feel like recreation is really our future.
I love hearing that from our point of view. So the one thing that I've been really interested in that you guys have been working on that I wanted to talk about today is the Connected Communities Project. Can you give me just a quick overview of what it is, when it started, and roughly when it plans to be finished?
Yeah, so I mean, I think it really started just kind of like a moonshot, idea. Like we'd been working in Downeyville, with Paul when he was with the Forest Service, and taking care of those trails and started building some new trails in Plumas County, like in the Quincy area, and started to really see kind of the benefits to the communities that we were bringing through trail development. Mm-hmm. So in 2019, I got invited to talk at it was called Mountain Ventures. It was in Mammoth. And instead of just talking about like what we do, I like talked about like what we could do. And I came up with this idea for connected communities and connecting the towns that are in Plumas, Sierra, and Lassen counties with a network of single track trails. Put together this presentation and pitched it like in this talk. And lo and behold, the executive director of Sierra Nevada Conservancy was in the audience, and he stood up and he's like, "I'm in. How do we make this happen? Like, what do we do?"
I love that.
So I was like, "Oh man, it's getting serious now." But we really took a year to kind of figure out like, okay, what does it mean, and put it into like basically a grant application to Sierra Nevada Conservancy for their California State Proposition 68 funds. Mm-hmm. So a year of development after the talk, and then we got funded in 2020, like right when COVID hit. So, and we had a really big like public outreach program all lined up with, town hall meetings. And so it's seen a lot of, I guess, like tweaks and turns and pivots. But the concept is really to connect 15 mountain towns. And those towns, 13 of them are disadvantaged economically. And again, it's, a lot of it's because they're surrounded by national forest, and the jobs that have historically been here have left. Mm-hmm. The two towns that aren't disadvantaged economically are Truckee and Reno. So we were strategic in adding those. It also complicated a lot of things, trying to bring, a network of trails across state boundaries. Yep. It's 4 national forests, it's 6 counties, 2 states. We couldn't come up with a more complex project, really.
Off the top of my head, from Truckee to Susanville, just on paved highway, that's what, 130 miles?
Yeah,
something like that. Like,
yeah, you're basically following, the crest of the Sierra all the way to where it meets the Cascades through the Great Basin. So the geography is incredible. You're joining 2 mountain ranges, you're seeing the high deserts, and you're visiting these towns, ideally to the main streets of the towns where you're maybe you're spending some money. That's the hope.
Yeah.
Bring your credit card and visit.
Go find a local restaurant, sit down, have a beer. Yeah.
One thing's for sure, like all these towns, you're disadvantaged when Dollar General comes to your town.
Yeah.
So, I don't think Truckee, maybe Truckee has a Dollar General in Reno, but, every other community that we're joining is got a Dollar General there. So.
Yeah, I know from just my time up there, and I know Paul's also spent a lot of time up in that region, but going up to like Gray Eagle as a kid, I think there's like a couple of retirees, a Frosty stand, a driving range, maybe a golf course.
Those are all still there.
Heck yeah. Oh, yeah. I love hearing that. And then a state park. There's Plumas Eureka State Park up there, yep. Which actually has some pretty decent camping, by the way, coming from the State Parks podcast. If you're ever interested in just going car camping somewhere, Plumas Eureka State Park, beautiful place.
And their fries and food at that Frosty stand, top notch.
Oh yeah.
Anyway,
not sponsored, but I still dream of that Frosty stand, and I haven't been up there in probably 10 years, but love it.
That Plumas Eureka State Park, that campground is top notch. Like they have, showers there. Like it's full though. You got to like plan ahead and make sure you're booking. But, summer recreation is great. The winter, there's like one of the first ski hills in the world.
Yeah.
There at Johnsville.
Yeah. It's like one of the first ski races,
yeah,
I believe.
Longboard.
Yeah. And it's,
longboard race up there.
Yeah. What are those 25-foot long skis or something like that people were just going straight on?
Yeah, they're up to like I think 13 feet is the longest.
Okay.
Those guys on the longer skis don't usually win. The course just isn't. If it was another like 400 yards long, they would dominate. But usually like 9 to 10 feet is the length you're looking for.
Yeah, I remember going up and seeing those like in the museum there up on the wall and all that. And as a little kid, they feel gigantic.
And Greg, like all the stuff you're talking about, it really sparked interest to me because I do a lot of riding in the Sierras, and I was like riding from Grass Valley to Susanville, and then doing long training days. And I remember, shoot, this has been, I don't know, probably close to 10 years ago now, Greg. Remember we were at the Downeyville Classic, and you're kind of talking about how cool it'd be to connect a bunch of towns together, and we were just like joking, like it kind of already exists via dirt roads. So, and you're building off of that, which I think is incredible because you start exploring, from your doorstep. I could go all the way to Nevada practically on dirt, and then to make that better as a rider, it's incredible. So let's hear more about it.
Yeah. So when is the project planned to be finished? Hopefully.
Oh, well, so we just finalized the plan.
Sweet.
I would call it more of a community-driven vision. So it took 5 years to really develop this concept, and it, like 160 meetings. We did some public surveys where we got 1,300 people to participate in surveys.
Wow.
800 of those people actually took the time to draw on maps and make suggestions. But it was overwhelming. Like 94% of the people, trails are important to their life. Like 96% want more trails. They want their towns connected. I think it was like 88% said they would pick up a shovel and volunteer and help build this thing like right away.
I love hearing that.
Yeah. So through this process, we've done, and we've developed like some best management practices, which is really cool. There's like how we communicate with land managers, and bring projects forward, how we do outreach within our community and gather information, how we engage with tribes, which is super important. Like we are operating in the homelands of the Miwok, the Nisenan, the Maidu, the Pit River, Concow, Paiute, and Washoe tribes. So, we engaged with all the tribes. When we could, we visited with them, sat down, looked over maps, made sure they were a part of the whole planning process. And then you get into like what we call optimum location review, which is like, how do you decide where a trail goes? And so a big part of that is doing like desktop reviews with the land manager. So, it took about a year of really meeting with each forest, each district. So there's 9 districts across the forest that we meeting with the archaeologist, the biologist, the botanist, and kind of knowing like where those no-go areas are, like where maybe there's sensitive species or there's a cultural site, and we just avoided those. So that's a big part of it. And then also, like we went through the Dixie Fire, which burned 1 million acres and put in about 2,700 miles of dozer line across ridge tops. So we probably don't want to put trails on the ridge tops, because they could get bulldozed, and we don't want to put a trail where there is a bulldozer line, because who wants to be out there?
Yeah.
So we started to look at like, okay, if we hold the trails off the ridge, keep them south facing, complement where there is a dozer line. And then while we were on fire during the Dixie Fire, we came up with this concept of fire hardened trails, which uses that 100-foot wide corridor when we do NEPA and CEQA, and all the surveys are happening, using that corridor as a fuel break. And how do we complement, the dozer lines? How do we look at like maybe a stacked loop trail system around a community with the fire hardened trail system to fire safe that community? So that was another like best management practice that came out of it. And then meeting with like wilderness groups, it was like, okay, we have to have a conservation plan. Like, how are we going to handle sensitive wildlife? How are we going to, how are we going to cross creeks? And for the most part, we use the existing road system. So we're tying the trail into existing road. That's how we're getting over waterways and not disturbing, hydrology. So just a lot of thought I went into this whole practice. And now we basically have like a recipe book that other communities like across the world can reference connected communities, go through like this step-by-step program, look at these best management practices and hopefully have a way better product than they would have just on their own.
That's awesome. I love that. What in the end is like miles of trail going to look like for this trail network around all these communities then?
So we basically came up with like a couple of alternatives, and it's not like a one size fits all. Like, we are working across 9 different districts of the forest. So there's trail segments, like we mapped out around like 550 plus miles of trail.
Wow.
That would connect the towns. But it's not like we would do one big environmental impact report for everything. Like it's too big of an area. Like it really needs to be done like at a district level. So you have that expertise, those specialists working on the, so we broke it up into kind of like bite-sized chunks where, a certain segment could be looked at. It could go under environmental review. So that's like alternative A, has around 550 miles of trail. And then alternative B is we mapped out like this incredible route that's already open and available to motorized use and multiple use. It uses some roads, it uses some trails, like connecting like Prosser, OHV, Downeyville, Mount Huff. So connections into those existing OHV areas where if you have a plated motorcycle, you could hit all these towns right now and go play in these OHV areas, visit some fire lookouts. And that route's like kind of unlimited, I mean, it's around 700 miles of roads and trails that are mapped out, but you could visit another 500 miles right off that signature route.
That's amazing.
Yeah, Greg. So are you guys thinking of like highlighting the general route like you're describing it? It already does exist. I've been on a lot of that, and you do connect trail systems via these dirt roads. What's your thoughts on that? Or are you going to leave it open-ended?
No, it's shown as our alternative B in the connected communities vision. It's mapped out. It connects all 15 towns with dirt roads and trails that are existing. It does show we do have some projects that are through NEPA that are in development now. So it does highlight some of those areas. The trails don't yet exist, but they're through the environmental process. One of the challenges right now is just funding, and at the same time, with the Forest Service situation, kind of a dismantling of staff and lack of funds, I'd say those are our 2 biggest challenges right now, is trying to fund this thing and then trying to be like really strong partner to the Forest Service when they're kind of just in these uncertain times.
Yeah, I've been hearing that from a lot of the different groups that work with these outside agencies, is that it's been definitely difficult on the federal side. I know that there's been a few that have been able to use some of state parks OHV grant funds money to kind of keep staffs semi-glued together. But so far, the ones that I know of have only been kind of in Southern California. I don't know what it's looking like up north.
Yeah, I mean, they're still receiving OHV grant funds and getting good projects out on the ground. But I think it has been a little harder this season, and it'll probably be hard next season as well. Exactly what Greg's talking about. So having people like the Sierra Buttes Trails Stewardship supplement those staffs, like for example on the Tahoe, they do a lot of work. Once I left the Tahoe National Forest, you guys filled a void to continue to keep the trails in Downeyville pristine, which is great. And that's what this is all about, partnerships and making trails awesome, which you guys do a great job at.
So I hear you guys talking about Downeyville Classic. I think you mentioned shared use trails. Who all is going to be able to use this trail network that's being kind of pieced together?
Yeah, I mean, that's not our decision. That's land manager decision. I think when we went into this project, we basically set a trail for everyone. You know, like our favorite trails are trails that get multiple use, motorized, non-motorized, you know, the more the merrier.
Mm-hmm.
And that comes just through, you know, thoughtfulness, sustainable trail design. You know, there's no reason why we can't build a trail that everybody can get along on. But again, it's not our decision. It's up to the forest, and it's really up to those district rangers to decide what trails are appropriate for motorized, which ones are not going to be motorized. So, you know, I would say like the way we designed things, the whole thing could be motorized, but again, not our decision.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, in some cases, like it might not be appropriate, like where they're in the back of a neighborhood, or you know, I mean,
Yeah.
and a lot of these trails really are more remote. They're like long distance. They're connecting towns, you know, obviously connecting towns, but a lot of them could be motorized, you know, and that's
So if people were wanting to get involved and are passionate about these trails, making sure that they are motorized trails, how could they possibly get involved?
well. So all these, as we move them forward, are going to go through NEPA, so the environmental process on the federal level, and then because we attract state funding and we want to keep the doors open for like California off-highway vehicle funding or, you know, state proposition funding, we always do CEQA in addition, which is the California version. And it ends up being an environmental analysis, which is a pretty big process. It typically takes like 3 years, sometimes longer. We got to do, you know, again, like botany surveys. So plants, like and certain plants only, you know, are there certain times of the year. So you got to hit those surveys just right. Archaeology surveys, wildlife, hydrology, you know, so you got to make sure you're getting all those surveys in and you're not disturbing any kind of sensitive habitat or cultural sites. Um, you know, and then just all the documentation, like driving that whole document forward, public comments. So typically it takes around 3 years. And so during that process, there's public comment period, you know, that allows everybody, whether they're for the project or against the project, to write in, you know, their concerns or like their stoke or, you know, however they feel about it. So, you know,
Awesome.
none of these trails get built without public input and without proper environmental
Where,
reviews.
where can people find information about when public comments are happening so that way they could potentially put in their comment?
Yeah, so they can follow us on our website, sierratrails.org. They can also go to the U.S. Forest Service. They have like I think it's called like SOPA. Paul would probably know, but it's
Yeah,
like a
for the Forest Service, you go to it's called the Schedule of Proposed Actions, and then for each forest unit, they're going to have projects that are in developing proposal, active, or completed, and you can look at those projects, click on them, and you can see when the public comment periods may be. Exactly like what Greg said, like go to the SOPA page, Schedule of Proposed Action, and the forests are the Tahoe, the Lassen, and the Plumas, right, Greg? And maybe part of the Humboldt-Toyabe. So those would be the forests you would go to look on their SOPA page to see what projects are going on.
Awesome. And you said that some of this is involving state parks OHV money, and so you're getting CEQA done. I know that we have our own public comment on all of our grants that we put out for funding. When does that happen, Paul?
Well, it just happened.
It just happened, unfortunately.
So typically, preliminary grants go in March, and then final grants are due in June, and that's the time frame between March and final is when public can make comments. Like let's say there is a maintenance project in a forest and they say, hey, we're going to do 100 miles of maintenance. Someone in that area that use that forest, they may want to comment like, hey, I think the funds should be spent here. They should be spent over there. It should be used for this. So that's the time for the public to be involved because it is essentially taxpayers' dollars from registration and gas tax. So very similar to the environmental process. There's a public comment period to see how the money's being spent, which is great.
Yeah. So for everybody listening, if you want to be able to have a voice in where your tax dollars go, you have that ability. And it sounds like it's from, you said March to June every year?
Mm-hmm.
March to June, at least for the OHV dollars. And I'm sure with the Forest Service stuff, it isn't quite as scheduled that way. But
yeah, those aren't specific dates, but that's the general time frame. If you want more information, go to the OHV website, State of California, and you can see all the information that you'd want about our grants program and exact dates. And it also has links to each project that's being developed, and you can make comments on each project. There are a lot of projects out there, all Forest Service, BLM, nonprofits, cities, counties, you name it, money's going out to make trails awesome.
Definitely. I think we mentioned it before, but just from state parks alone, I think it's 26 million a year.
This
roughly.
year, yeah, about 27 million. But it's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money.
For Ask, I think this year we awarded a little less than that, but it's all public information. You go to the website and see all the great projects that are being proposed and the ones that are active as well.
Yeah. So, Paul, you mentioned it, and Greg, I think you mentioned it a little bit too. When these trails are complete, because I know there are some sections that are starting to be built. I think there was a small piece of it built just outside of Truckee just a little bit ago. What does continual maintenance look like for these projects? Are we just hoping that Forest Service is going to take care of it, or are there volunteer groups that you could potentially get involved with to help keep up the trail maintenance?
Yeah, I mean, for us, it's kind of our livelihood. We build them, we maintain them. And we're thoughtful about, like, when we build trails, like there's no trail that we're going to build that we don't plan on having being part of our maintenance program. Mm-hmm. So California off-highway vehicles is a huge help for us for motorized trails. Like we were just awarded funding for the Downeyville system and for Mount Huff, which was a system that we started building out in 2008. Mm-hmm. And that trail system had no trails. Now it has over 80 miles of trails with the connection that we're going to open here in the next few weeks into Taylorsville. Wow, so that's one of the first connected communities. Those are all motorized trails. So I can't say how valuable that program is. It's incredible. It's a tough one to for new organizations thinking oh, they're going to get an OHV grant. You really have to be on top of your game, the administrative level. You got to have money in the bank to back up your payroll, but once you get to that level and you're able to be a good applicant, it is an incredible program. So we certainly lean on that, like RTP, which is a federal program that also goes through state parks. We're an applicant for that, and we've received funding. We have a robust Adopt a Trail program that anywhere from families to outdoor industry folks will adopt trails, and they either give money or time to keep those trails open. We host mountain epics, which are weekend campouts, where it's really cool because we have hikers, mountain bikers, e-bikers, dirt bikers, equestrian, all come in to camp out and do trail work. And then we party them down, feed them. They camp out, barbecue together, meet each other. And then the next day, everybody kind of just goes and does, their adventure, or however they choose to recreate, So for us, it's all kinds of avenues. We'll host a bake sale if we think it's going to come to fruition, and all of our events, Lost and Found, which is in Portola, which is a mountain bike gravel race, Downeyville Classic. We just did an event in Quincy called Mountains to Meadows. All those are fundraisers to help support our trail crews. So I mean, we're heavily vested. This is our livelihood. This is how we plan to raise our families here, and for our kids to be able to stay here is through these trails. So we take it very seriously. And again, we're not going to build a trail that we can't take care of.
I love that though. I love that it's like something that means more than just, digging a path. It's, the livelihood and connecting your families and making sure that communities are kind of can become one.
And you build a quality trail. That's important to think about. Building a trail just for the sake of building the trail is not what you're doing. Trails are meant to be enjoyable, dare I say fun at times.
You're allowed to say fun.
And I think you guys do a great job at that, and that's important to the end user. Why are people using trails to have enjoyment and have fun?
So I know that you probably love all of your trails equally that are built, but I do know that you are an avid rider. Is there a certain section of trail up there that you particularly love going and riding?
Oh man, I'd have to say like the newest trail that Henry, our trail boss, built. It just keeps getting better. I think so. Our main trail builder, I've known him since he was 8 years old. He grew up in Downeyville, grew up mountain biking, and was a downhiller. He rides dirt bikes. Of the 250 miles of trail that we built, he's been on every single project over the last 20 plus years. So I think just his craft now has gotten to a level where like every trail is kind of like the funnest for me.
Yeah.
I mean, at my heart is like Downeyville. That's my heritage. That's where I started. Those trails still like scare the crap out of me because you're hanging on a cliff edge and there's gnarly rock sections and but in terms of just the fun factor, like the new stuff that we're building in Quincy that Henry is in charge of is just like nothing else because it's built for wheeled traffic. It's built for low maintenance. It's built for fun. It's built to, if you want to go fast, you have good sight lines. It just has like everything working for it.
Yeah, Greg, I caught up with Henry at the Grinduro and Mountains and Meadows Enduro Fest that you guys just had. And I was like, Henry, I don't know how you do it. I built trails for a long time, but he has an eye to where he can build a trail that's great for a beginner and great for an expert. And that's really hard to do. And they're sustainable and they are fun and they are self-maintaining. I don't know how he does it.
That's amazing.
I think he's very critical of his own work, but it's pretty impressive to see the amount of trail that he's built on the Mount Huff. It's really cool.
Yeah, I don't know of anybody I don't know. He's built, been responsible for over 250 miles of trail. I don't know many people that have done that, so he is a craftsman.
That is awesome. That is.
I've built a lot of trail, but none of them are they're not quite a Henry trail, I must say. I give credit where credit's due.
So I also have to ask really quick. Was it our last episode were we talking about how to be prepared while out riding around, or was that like a couple episodes ago?
I can't remember.
I can't remember at this point. But I have heard that even our own Paul Hart here has taken you on a few journeys where you might not have been as prepared.
Well, I would have been prepared, but Paul helped me pack my gear for like a 9-day Baja backcountry.
And he's
trip.
The expert, right?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, to his credit, he did come back for me when my bike failed. After about an hour, he came back to find me. This is a trip where nobody leaves anybody behind, and nobody rides over 70% of their skill level. I mean, throw all that out the window, like in the first 5 minutes.
Well, you are in Mexico, and there's something about the dirt that just makes you want to go fast. I don't know. It's something special. Anyway, so
survival.
Greg on that trip. I mean, originally I was planning to go with Cameron and Sailor from Quincy, and then I think you got roped into it. And typically that time of year we went. I've been down there lots of times in March, April timeframe, and it's pretty nice weather. you expected to have some cold when you're up in the like Laguna Hansen area, up in the mountains and the trees. But boy, it was cold the whole time. And I think the one thing that kept you going, Greg, is that you knew that I was colder than you were, because I packed a 45-degree sleeping bag that my wife's awesome. She cleans stuff, but sometimes you shouldn't clean sleeping bags that are made from down. So I literally shivered myself to sleep every night and actually gave myself a sleeping injury. I fell asleep on my shoulder and I like pinched my radial nerve. So for about 600 or 700 miles of that trip, I was having to like lift my throttle arm, my right arm, up onto the handlebars. And once I had it on the handlebars, I could twist the throttle. But I definitely woke up with ice on my bag a few times.
And you hurting was the only thing that kept me going. Because I got about 30 pounds on you. I knew if you were cold, you know, if I was cold, you were definitely cold. And I think the coldest night, man, was like we were coming to camp, and I had some adult libations in my saddlebags that popped some holes in them and just drowned my sleeping bag. And we got to camp in the dark, and I pulled my sleeping bag out, and it was just soaking wet. So I tried to dry it out at the campfire, and it caught on fire and started melting, and feathers were going everywhere. But that's a Mexico trip.
Stories upon stories. So we had flat tires issues. We had like barbed wire wrapped in our wheels.
Oh, God.
Freezing cold. We did stay in a hotel one night, but that, you know, that's too luxurious. So we had to go back and get in the dirt again. But the point of all this is like getting out and exploring. That was a killer trip. What's some of the like bigger rides you've done in the Sierras, Greg?
I mean, mostly just, I would say recently, like just scouting these routes, you know, and trying to like see which roads are better and go to fire lookouts and just get to know my own backyard. It's been probably the funnest. And sleeping in the dirt, you know, I love it.
I think we all
I didn't used to like it. Mexico kind of like scared me, and then I was like, I kind of need this in my life.
It's weird. Like I know I crave that, like that misery or whatever you want to call it. It's fun after it's done, and it's something that, you know, I talk about still, and it's one of those trips that you'll never forget. Yeah.
I think that's why you can solo Ironman the Baja 1000, Paul, and be totally fine when you walk away.
That trip we did, Greg, if I remember right, it was about 1,400 miles, and we spent 9 days. The last Ironman I did was 1,310 miles, and I did it in 49 hours. So, yeah, I might have some screws loose, but it sure is fun riding your dirt bike in Mexico, I must say.
I think it's fun riding it pretty much everywhere.
It is. For me especially, I really like exploring the Sierras. Yeah, I'll ride from wherever to the desert over the Sierras. I do that a lot throughout the summer months, and I never get tired of it. I ride the similar systems all the time. Up and down the Sierras, I pretty much like it all. And I know, Greg, you're kind of the same way. You like it all.
So what I'm hearing is you need to get a dual sport and just start getting out there, especially in Northern California and some of these areas, because you can just see so much.
Absolutely.
I mean, you said what, 700 miles roughly?
Oh, there's like in our region, there's probably over 10,000 miles of dirt roads.
That is amazing. You know? That is absolutely amazing.
As much as both of us have ridden, like, I don't think we've even scratched the surface, Greg. I mean, up and down the Sierras, there's just so much access, and that's something I think a lot of people lose sight of in California. There's a ton of access. I grew up in the Midwest, and they just recently created the first ever public OHV area, and that has 20 miles of trail. So
it's Prairie City?
It's about that size.
Hey, well, good for them, though.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's like there's a lot to see up and down the Sierras in the desert in the wintertime. You kind of have it all, which is what's great about like this project. It's showcasing a lot of things that people aren't aware of, that's currently there and open to use. So I think it's great.
Yeah, I mean, if you want more mapping, you can go to our website at sierratrails.org. There's also the backcountry discovery route. They just published the NorCal route last year that comes through our zone. We worked with them to make sure it came through, Downeyville and Quincy and Chester. So that's another route that people can look up and plan an adventure with.
And I will say the backcountry discovery route stuff, if you have a dual sport kind of vehicle that you're riding around on, have some excellent trails even outside of California.
Oh, yeah.
Some amazing trails.
Yeah, there are BDRs all across the western states. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah. I really quickly just want to say thank you for joining us today. I loved having you on. Is there anyone or anything you kind of want to shout out really quick before we depart?
No, I just look forward to, and it's going to take my lifetime and, the next generation's lifetime to kind of finish out this project. I don't know if it'll ever be done. But what I love about it is that it provides some hope, for this region. And it is a solid plan that can work here and bring an economy and give opportunities for new businesses and for kids to stay in the towns that they grew up in and have a job. So just appreciate the support of California Off-Highway Vehicles through their grant program and partnerships, and obviously like the staff with the U.S. Forest Service that are still remaining. Like, they're incredible people and care about their communities. And
awesome. And really quickly, one last time, if people want to find out more about the connected communities or just the Sierra Buttes Trails Stewardship in general, where can they find you guys?
That's sierratrails.org.
sierratrails.org. Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us again, Greg. I really appreciate it. You're welcome to stay around for our last little section here, which we call Community Connections, which is pretty close to your name you got going there. But it's questions that we get from the community that I think are relevant to make sure that other people kind of know what's going on and they may be having the same thing. This is one that I kept getting over and over and over again while I was down at the Sand Sports Super Show. And it is if I have a plate from another state on my OHV vehicle, am I okay to use it in California?
Well, it depends on the type of vehicle, right? If it's a dual sport, you're probably okay. It depends on if it was a street legal bike in that state.
It depends on the type of vehicle, depends on whether or not it was street legal in that state. There's a lot going on there with that question. Mm-hmm. And the way I was breaking it down was I was saying, what type of vehicle is it? A lot of the time, it was a side-by-side.
Yeah.
And with side-by-sides in California, those are not street legal vehicles, so your plate doesn't work here in California as a form of registration. So you'd still have to go and get that out-of-state sticker.
Yep. I remember when I lived in Arizona, I'd see side-by-sides at Walmart or whatever, at the grocery store or wherever. Yeah, not the same in California.
Nope, not quite. And so I just really quickly want to say, if you're coming from out of state into California, or if your vehicle's registered from out of state, you got to know whether or not your vehicle is allowable to be registered as a street legal vehicle in California. If it is, and you have a plate on it, you're good to go. Go ride, go have fun. If it's not a street legal vehicle in California, just make sure you go ahead and grab that out-of-state registration, and then you'll be good to go. This has been the Beyond the Blacktop podcast, brought to you by California State Parks. If you have a question you would like answered on a future episode, please reach out to us on Facebook at California State Parks Off-Highway Motor Vehicle Recreation Division, on Instagram at CA State Parks OHV, or email us at ohvinfo@parks.ca.gov. This podcast is a copyright by California State Parks. No part of this podcast may be reproduced or distributed without the written permission of California State Parks, its districts, or divisions.